Hi, in today's video I'm going to show you how to use netcat to send files from one computer on the network into the Windows subsystem for Linux and copy them across to the Windows desktop, and then do the reverse, copy files from the Windows side into the Windows subsystem for Linux and send them out to another computer on the network. So first of all, what I'm going to do is come across to the Windows shell. And this is the Windows subsystem for Linux running Ubuntu. Now, the first thing you're going to need to do is run IPA, and that's going to show you your Ethernet address. So you can see here, inet 172.19.164.191. And basically why this is important is because what that means is that this is running on a private sort of network within Windows. So we can't actually access this IP address from another computer on the network without having to do some kind of bridging or firewall sort of wizardry to get this to work. But what we can do is dial out from the Ubuntu machine onto another machine. So if I come back across, let me clear that and come back across let me just come back across to the other desktop. So if I switch across to Linux now, basically what we're going to be doing is using netcat to send a file to the Windows subsystem for Linux. And we're also going to be using netcat and the pv command to create a progress bar that we can use when we're transferring large files. So first of all, what we're going to be doing is setting up a listener on the Linux side. We're using netcat with the listen option and verbose. So this is -LV, and then we're specifying a port to listen on. So this port needs to be open in your firewall, which is something you'll need to have a look at if you're using IP tables or GUFW, which is another firewall on Linux. But we're going to be listening on port 6881, and we're using this little symbol here to indicate that we're going to pipe the in file into netcat. So first of all, what we're going to do is create a text file. So what I'll do is touch linux.txt and echo this is a Linux text file, and put that into the Linux thing there. So now if we run less on that file, this is the Linux text file. Actually, I'll just rename this infile.txt. Because that's the command that I've got written down. So we created the text file, and let me just switch back to Emacs with the command we need to run. So we need to run nc LV6881, which is the port I'm using, and redirect the text file. Now, on the receiving computer, which is going to be the Windows subsystem for Linux running Ubuntu, what we need to do is run another command after we've set Linux to listen with netcat. So first of all, what we'll do is run this. So you can see here, netcat, listen, verbose, port 681, redirect the text file. It's now listening on that interface. So what we're now going to do is come across here, and this is the, let me see if I can just move this up a bit. This is going to be the Ubuntu machine. So basically this is the IP address here of my Linux machine and the port. And this -W3 keeps the connection open. And then what we're going to be doing is redirecting the output into outfile.txt. So what I'm going to do now is come back across to the Windows side of things. Okay, and let me just switch across to that desktop. For some reason the keyboard shortcut's not working, so just bear with me. Sorry about this. So we got that working now. So what we're going to do is nc-w3, the IP address, port, outfile.txt. Okay. We can see I've got the text enlarged there, so less out file. This is a Linux text file. So that's transferring the text file from Linux to Windows. And the reason why this is really useful is because there may be occasions where you want to transfer sensitive information, passwords and things like that, and you can't use a cloud service, like Dropbox, to sync stuff across, especially when we're just running in Ubuntu here. And also it's a pain to constantly plug in a USB drive, copy files across, and then plug it into another machine. So now what I'm going to show you is how to copy this out file that we've created to the Windows desktop. So I'm going to move the out file to Mount C, and this is the location of the C drive, the Windows C drive that is mapped onto Linux. So Mount C is your Windows C drive, users, username, desktop. So now let me just see if I can come back to here, and what I want to do is come across to the File Explorer, and you should see now here, probably a bit too small perhaps, the out file that was created. Let me see if I can shift across here. This is the out file, and I'm not sure if I've got window capture running, so if I open the file, the contents might not be sort of captured in this window, but that's the out file that I showed you being copied to Ubuntu and then into Windows. So what I'm going to do now is show you how to send a large file with a progress bar using PV. So what we've done first of all is we've dialed out from Ubuntu to our second Linux machine on the network, transferred a file across, and then copied it to the Windows side. Of course, we can do the reverse and copy a file from Windows and then send it back out to another computer on the network. But what I'm going to do now is show you how to come across to Linux. What I'm going to do is show you how to use PV command with netcat. So I just open this. So PV is a command that will show a progress bar when things are being transferred through a can be through the network or across to another device. You can use it in combination with other tools like DD and CP and stuff like that. And basically what it's going to do is it's going to pipe the file here into netcat. So rather than redirecting a file into netcat as we did before, what we're going to be doing now is using PV with the -P, B and E options, which are for progress, bytes and ETA, the estimated time of arrival. So what we'll do now is we'll run PV-PBE, the IM file, which is in this case is a movie, and pipe it into netcat. And then on the receiving computer, what we're doing here is pretty much the same command as before, but we're just redirecting it into a file with a .mov extension because it's a movie. So let's transfer the file across. I already have a file here to transfer, so now it's listening. So the next step is to come back across to the Windows side of things. Let me see if I can just switch back across here. So what you need to do now is nc -w3, the IP address, .3, the port, and outfile.mov. What I need to do is I'm going to switch back to the Linux side so that you can actually see the progress bar in action. So what I'm going to do is just come back across to the Linux side. Okay, and then I will hit the return button on the Windows side. Getting a bit complicated this. For some reason, oh, there we go. Okay, so we should have just seen the progress bar going across, transferring the file from Windows, from Linux, into Ubuntu on the WSL, which again is running a private IP address that we can't normally, we can't dial into. That's why we're dialing out using netcat to an IP address we can reach, and then sort of reversing stuff down that tube. So now if I come across to the Windows side again, and I need to actually switch to the terminal. So we've got the out file there, so then I can move that outfile.mov to the Windows desktop. Remember, to move stuff from the Ubuntu side to the Windows side, it's mount C users, your username, desktop. Okay, and let me switch back across here and come across to the File Explorer. And you should now see the movie actually being copied across. So now what we can do is we can do the reverse. So what I can do is I can send that back out to the other machine. So what I'll do is I'll just come across to rename this, just switch back across. So I'll call that, I'll rename this new file, for instance, and then what I'll do is I'll come back and copy it from the Windows, from Ubuntu in WSL, from the Windows File Explorer. So if I come across to here, so let me just move to the desktop. So there's a test file, let me just remove that. And what I'll do is I'll move that file from the desktop to here, mount C users, username, desktop, outfile.mov, wasn't it? What was it called? New file.mov, dot to copy it, to move it to the current directory, new file. Okay, so now what we need to do is use PV on this side to send the file back across. So what we're going to do is run PV -pbe new file. sorry, it's my keyboard. And then we're going to use netcat ncw. Is this going to work? Let me just check. W3 192, sorry, 192.168.1.3.688.6.881, which is the port. So that should be all good. And then what we need to do is start the listener on the Linux device. So what we'll be doing is running, let's see if this will work, nclv uh, 6881 new file.mov. So let me just come back and show you that. So that's what I'm thinking on the other side. And what I'll do now is switch back to the other terminal, come back across, and I need to start listening here on the Linux side, and let me see if this now will, for some reason this terminal, there we go. Okay, so that's finished. So now let me switch back across to the Linux side. Transition, there we go. And we can see the new file has been transferred. So what this allows us to do is dial out from within the Windows subsystem for Linux, because it's a private network which we can't access from other machines on the network. Transfer files from other computers into the Windows subsystem for Linux, copy them to Windows, and then copy files from Windows into Ubuntu on WSL, and then send them back out to other computers on the network. And we can also use the pv command to create a progress bar that will show the amount of data that's actually been sent and the estimated time of arrival, which is really useful if you're sending a large file like an ISO or something, or a zip file or a tar.gz file. So basically what this will allow you to do is send files between Windows and other machines on the network without having to muck about with Windows file sharing, and also without having to plug USB drives in and out of different machines. So that's basically how you can use netcat and pv to send and receive files from other computers on the network into the Windows subsystem for Linux and into Windows.